In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Look at... hold on, Mike, what's happening? What's happening over there?
Keith, why is Spock frying the crap out of my shoulder with his phaser? Pew, pew, pew. Ah.
You come here for the action figures, stay for the skits. Wow, I thought the matinee was better, but it's good enough. Folks, we are here to talk about, I think, one of the more interesting lines of Playmates action figures for Star Trek. These are the 6-inch combat action series that Playmates put out in 1997. Now, this was only 1 year after they put out the Star Trek First Contact figures. And as we all discovered, we really liked the figures that they were bigger and the sculpts were beautiful and they had full articulation as long as you were a main cast member. Super cool. But nobody liked the fact that they were bigger because we have bookshelves behind us. And we want to have our lines be consistent for us collectors. It didn't matter as much for the kids, but for us collectors, that was a problem. And so we were all disappointed. And what do Playmates do? They're like, let's make more of them, but make them even different-er. Mike, are you excited for what is going to be, without question, the most violent episode of Star Trek Toys we're going to do?
You know, I am, Keith, as I'm not as versed in the plot points, the lore, if you will, although, spoiler alert, something tells me I'm going to be forced kicking and screaming into learning said lore pretty soon.
Yes, you are.
However, I do know that it is not a show that relies on its action and violence. That is not the crux of of their problem solving. I mean, we get there. Don't get me wrong, we get there.
Look, we will pew, but not until we have to, because we've talked to you. That's how this works.
But kids want toys. And when you've made the same figure over and over again, you got to change it up. So what we got to do is we got to put a button on them. We got to make them move in different ways. We got to give them weapons that appear to be oversized and not to scale. And hopefully we can talk a little bit about articulation. Keith, you often complain about lack of articulation. And in order to facilitate these weapons, my guess is that they're going to have to augment the articulation points.
Yeah, well, there's going to be some interesting compromises that we're going to see in this series. Actually, I'm really glad that you brought up the way Star Trek handles conflict as a whole, and the fact my cat. Speaking of conflict, I have my lights up here, and right above my lights is the window well that my cat loves to hang out in. And so he keeps jumping on and off, and he keeps knocking things off. So I built a shelf for him to get up and down, which I now put my lights on. But now when he exits, when he's bored of the room, what happened just happened. So Mike, Phil, while I go and plug my lights back in. My goodness.
I will, Phil. In fact, what I'll mention is that I often, as a kid, we talk about little Mike and his enjoyment of action figures of all to shapes and sizes. The problem I had was often these action type or weapon type action figures were not my jam because their arms were like spring loaded often, and so once that spring broke, they'd have a limpy arm, or their arm would do weird things because it was posed in a way to facilitate the weapon. So I didn't, or sometimes they'd just have big ugly buttons on them that I didn't care for. So I'm interested to see how I feel about these, Keith, because I do my best when loading up the videos not to look at them.
You are here to see us begin at the very beginning, which in our case usually is with none other than Captain Jean-Luc Picard. So let's take a look at his combat Pew Pew figure, and that is figure 16251, Fencing Picard. Here he is, folks. Did you know, Mike, that Captain Picard fences?
Well, I imagine that Patrick Stewart, as a trained actor, would have taken some fencing classes. So I'm sure that they decided to work that on in. And he is French, and I think that's fancy.
Sure, yes. And if you're, those of you who are not in the acting field, actual fencing skills are something they do teach for classically trained actors. And I actually got some of it at opera school, if you'd believe. It was as disastrous as you would imagine it would be, but learning some very basic fencing skills because you see it a lot in Shakespeare.
Did he come with an épée?
He perhaps did, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. But first off, let's take a look at the box here. Now, you know this is from Playmates Warp Factor series. So these figures came out just 1 year after the First Contact figures. But they're in the Warp Factor, so you have sort of the rounded box there, and you can see they had the choking hazards, which were both scaled up to meet the 6-inch scale, but also because we're going pew pew action, bang bang, the gun is absolutely enormous for strange reasons, except for to hide the mechanism, because maybe the pew pews, folks. So a lot going on here, and you'll notice, Mike, on the figure itself, do you see something we don't normally see on a figure from Playmates?
You mean a very discreet giant button in the back?
Yes, it is a discreet giant button. So something might happen, but before I show you what happens when you press the button, because I'm going to make you guess, because that's exciting. Let's talk about the figure itself here. This is, frankly, where you see some of the advantages of the larger scale, because I think the sculpt here is beautiful. And you have the full articulation with the elbows and shoulders and knees and thigh articulation, which
There's
is
no
really
way his
nice.
right arm articulates in any way.
His right arm does not articulate for a reason that you can start thinking about, because I'm going to ask you. Yeah, I'm going to ask you what that button does before I press the buttons on these figures here. But you'll also notice a really interesting detail that we did not get on the First Contact figures, and that is the pips are actually molded and painted in this figure, as opposed to just painted in the First Contact figures. Also out of scale, the communicator. That communicator, I'm pretty sure, is significantly bigger than it was in real life in terms of scale with Patrick Stewart. So why don't we take this opportunity and hop over to ToyCam and answer some of those important questions. First off, let me just show you. Let me get it lined up. Hold on. I got to figure out where the camera is. You can see that the pips there are molded, which I think is a very nice detail and adds to some of the realism there. And the little cut in the neck. I think the sculpt, frankly, is beautiful. And I really do like it. I think it's probably the same head sculpt as the First Action or the First Contact figure, but I do like it. Some people have been complaining online about the shininess of it all, and I totally agree, because all this would be matte in real life, but these are some very glossy figures. But here we are. I've given Jean-Luc Picard his épée, and you'll notice when you stand him up, he does have fencing posture. So his legs are actually molded so that he can't straighten his left leg. He must be in fencing posture for this figure.
I'm going to need you to rotate his left arm upwards as he would be. Yeah.
Yes. For an official fence here. Very good. All right, Mike, tell me what the button does.
It's got to make the épée go twirly, twirly, twirly. Boing.
All right, are we ready, folks? here's the moment where we find out what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, my favorite moment from Look at My Star Trek Toys. Oh, yeah. Oh!
Oh, he's got a rubber arm. Oh!
Oh, man. You're going to go blind. Patrick Stewart's going to go blind.
So, you just bought this toy, and you're so excited, and that's what it does.
All right, guys, design meeting. We really need his posture to be specific. We need the articulation of his left and right arms to be specific so that we really pay homage and respect to the art of fencing.
The fine art, yes,
that
absolutely.
sounds great. What should the button do? Just have his arm wobble uncontrollably and
flail like crazy. Here, you can see it from the top and really get the effect.
Well, I mean, whoever he'd be stabbing probably would be
confused.
Yeah, that's true.
Would certainly be confused. Well, yeah, so there it is. That is the iconic and Jean-Luc Picard flailing his arm. Now, one of the things that's interesting about these figures, because in order to have this articulation, there have to be mechanisms stored in the torso of the body to control all of these things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when you have these figures in your hand, you can tell that his torso is hollow and has, whatever gizmos are in there to make the arm flail. And if you feel his left arm versus his right arm, it's also much lighter and all one piece and also hollow. So weirdly, with all the extra bells and whistles they've thrown into this figure, it feels in your hand much cheaper. Because it's lighter and you can tell that it's hollow and you can sort of like hear it wobbling when you touch it. So it's an interesting choice they made here. I would love to know how these sold in relation to the rest. Probably not great because they didn't continue the series after what we are seeing. So I think, Mike, are you ready to move forward?
Let's do that.
And see another very important figure. And that is figure 16252. It's Riker.
Wow.
With the most ridiculous giant gun you have ever seen. It's, yeah. I mean, it's obviously supposed to be an approximation of a phaser rifle here. So before we talk about the gun, let's just talk about the figure. You have sort of the same advantages and disadvantages of the Picard figure, right? It's really well sculpted. I think it's one of the better Riker likenesses. You have the pips are, well, what are we? Yeah, the pips are molded a little bit and painted. So that part of it looks pretty good. Mike, any thoughts on your end?
Yeah, it's funny. I tend to disagree with you a little bit. Maybe it's one of the better ones, but I find it interesting to me that Jonathan Frakes is a very specific looking dude, and I always feel that all of the sculpts are sort of generic. Like it's generic brown-haired dude with beard. I don't get a particularly strong likeness ever really with him. And you'd think, I don't know why, but I just feel that way. However, that is one of the most ridiculously giant guns I've ever seen. It's kind of
it's
comical.
it's so silly. I will say, if we go over to Toy Cam, one of the things that they got right about Frakes is his piercing blue eyes, which I have always admired. I'm like, man, if I had eyes like that, that'd be amazing. But Frakes is a good-looking fellow. But yes, so this is a figure.
Keith, could you take the gun out of his hands and lay it next to him, height-wise?
Most certainly cannot.
Oh.
This gun is bolted onto him. You cannot remove this gun. Which
I don't like that.
I don't like it one bit. And this is why this figure lives on the bottom shelf in my collection. And it's partly about how I feel about guns and Trek. It doesn't feel like Riker. It doesn't feel like Trek. the other thing about this gun is you'll see here, the actual front handle is on the front of the gun. So what's he holding on to in the middle of the gun? He's not even holding on to they added an extra post to the gun so that he could hold on to it.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
But they do give his arm a rotating. It looks like his right arm has like a rotative articulation. Does that do anything?
Well, you're able to here, but let's go back to Toy Cam and let's explore. So he is able to move his arms a little bit, and this one, frankly, is a bit of a mystery to me because my next question is, Mike, what do you think the button does?
I guess it just kind of moves the gun to and fro a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think mine works, right? Because what it's supposed to do is he's supposed to like lock into some sort of a gun position.
Oh, like a
and then you press the
kind of
button and it releases. But mine doesn't work. And so I don't quite know what it is. What it does is suck. However, guess what the gun does? Are you ready? If you press this button, prepare yourself for violence, folks.
Oh! That worked out perfectly.
Yes, so it actually does shoot the little bolt dealie. Now, what is that supposed to be? Especially in the context of Star Trek, where it's supposed to shoot a phaser pulse? No idea. And what does the thing look like? I'll show you on Toy Cam. This is what the actual
oh Jesus
thing is. So what does that have to do with Star Trek? No idea.
I mean, I feel like you could load a Q-tip up in there and just shoot it up in your ear canal.
You probably could. So maybe it's some sort of a hygiene device. It's very confusing, but it does that. And now, if you go back, so back on Toy Cam, I actually can show you the gun next to him because guess what? Picard came with one too, and it's the same gun.
Okay.
And does the same shootingness. So you can see how big that gun is.
Yeah, roughly 4 feet it would be in life.
Oh my God. Remember the G.I. Joe roadblock where I think he had like an M60 or some like a mini gun he carried around? It feels like that, where it, felt much more appropriate being G.I. Joe, actual military. So anyway, this Riker lives on my bottom shelf. I can't get the gun out of his hand. Otherwise, I would like the figure, even if it were scaled wrongly. It's very odd. It's very odd. So there it is. The button doesn't quite work. I don't know why mine doesn't work. You know what? I'm okay. It's fine. I don't need it to do anything. Because that's weird. I think let's just move forward. Let's move forward to a character that this would be much more appropriate for. And who do you think that would be?
Well,
Mike?
It's got to be our trusty lieutenant.
Our trusty lieutenant, a Klingon. They're all about battles. This makes perfect sense. Let's take a look at 16253 Worf. Here we go. This is Swingy Batleth Worf. And so this is this very similar figure to the one they made for First Contact, because he's not wearing his Next Gen era uniform. He's wearing his DS9 First Contact uniform. So it has a lot of similarities. Now, of course, you will notice that he's got it's got some differences. Now, if you remember, you know what? Go to Toy Cam.
He's got a sculpted baldric, right?
Let's play a little game of can you spot the differences? So here we are. This is the First Contact figure, and this is the combat action figure. Can you spot some differences?
Okay. Well, we've got, like I said, we've got the sculpted baldric versus the individualized baldric.
Yes. Good.
We've got
good.
some paint differences on the sleeving of his outfit?
Yes, excellent. He is missing his rank or his division colors on his sleeve.
He
Excellent.
does not
Well
have a
done.
neck cutout in his tunic.
Excellent. Very good.
And the paint job does not go all the way to the shoulder. It's like they put the wrong arms on him. Oh, it
Well,
does. Okay, it does. It does.
It does, but you're so close to picking up the last difference that I'm aware of, other than the color of his pigment of his head. And this one baffles me.
I don't think I see it.
All right, look at the shoulders. It is missing the fabric ridges.
Oh yeah.
In the shoulders. So I have so many questions about this figure and why it is the way it is. Why did they make those mistakes on this figure? Because they had to build a new torso for this, because it needed to do different things, which is why the baldric is attached, so on and so forth. But why the mistakes? And is it really that much more expensive to add the ridges to the shoulders? I don't know. It's very strange. And yet, so they lost the ridges on the shoulders and the division colors, but the pips in this case are sculpted. So it's a very strange set of compromises. Now, we'll flip him over and you'll notice some other changes, including guess what? He's got a button too, and he's also got a little holster here for his batleth and other assorted pew pew guns, which he comes with some. So we forgot to look at the box. Let's take a look at the box.
Well, you were in it.
I was too excited. And
he has a giant gun too.
Of course he has a giant gun. I mean, why would he not have a giant gun? This is the giant gun.
Looks like he's got swingy swing.
He does. Yeah, that's right. Spoiler alert. So, and he's got this gun here, and he's got the Klingon disruptor, which I have here, which is also giant. And I'm assuming it came with something else that shoots, but I don't know if I have it. And because the other sort of missiles that shoot out don't fit in the hole, but there is a hole there, and it does have a switch, which would seem to be some sort of a release for a spring-activated something. But I don't know. I don't know what happened to it. So
can you make him swingy swing for us?
Yes, of course we can make him swingy swing. So if we put the batleth in his hand, and I'll just do it lazy this time, just for fun. So you know what, we're gonna pretend the batleth is there. So what you do is you twist him and cock him from the hips, right? Swing from the hips, and then you press the button. Look out! Pacow! It moves a couple of centimeters. Pacow! That's all.
So if you couple that, if he was battling against Picard in some sort of alternate universe, that's a pretty crappy battle, or silly at the very least.
Aha! Take that! Oh, take this!
It's less like a swingy swing action battle, and it's more like he's giving a very animated high five.
That's right, low five. Yeah. It is. Yeah, So that's what that does. And I'll say similarly, at least the arms feel normal because the baldric is glued on, and if you go on the sides, or it's not glued on, it's molded. If you look at the sides of him, there's something that you rarely see, and that is they've had to sort of make some compromises with the baldric and just sort of to make it fit, because it obviously can't go over it, so it's got to be right there on the hip articulation. So I don't know, it feels like an odd set of compromises for not a heck of a lot of payoff.
This just in, we're not digging the Worf.
I think I just might not be digging this whole line. Even though I want to because the sculpts are pretty decent. But,
so Keith, some would say you're not assimilating with the line.
Wow.
I was trying. I was
yeah.
trying.
No. I appreciate a metaphor or a simile. But
or a failed segue, if you will.
I think segues failed as badly as our segues. Remember those things were going to be the biggest thing in the whole wide world? Or they sold it that way? All right, let us move forward and talk about the last... Oh, no, second to last.
That's what I'm doing. I'm segueing into the Borg, Keith. Assimilating, get it?
Yeah, no. I believe me, it was not lost on me.
Yeah, but then but then you jumped the character.
Apparently, resistance was futile. So let us hop forward. Oh, you know what? And I've solved a mystery. Guys, we are solving mysteries real time here. And we're going to go, but before we solve it, let's go to figure number 16254, the Borg, a shooty Borg.
Shooty Borg.
Shooty Borg. Okay, well, here we are with our 6-inch Borg. Looks pretty cool, right, Mike?
It does look pretty cool.
Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty badass. Does it also perhaps look a little familiar?
Is it just the same Borg we had before, but bigger?
It's very damn similar, which we'll address it. We'll show you side to side, but it is the same mold as the First Contact Borg, just with the 2 arms switched out. And so you will see that he has a clamp as opposed to a weird giant human hand and a gun that shoots other than his other clampy. He had a clamp on the other hand. They're really big into clamps. So Mike, talk about this figure for a second while I find the thing that I shot behind me and I have now lost.
See this, folks, actually I'm going to bring him in because Keith is a grown man and him just trying to keep all of the shooting choking hazards and accoutrement intact and near him and organized is an impossibility. How do children do this? Spoiler alert, they don't. I lost all the stuff.
They lost all of them, yes.
My little nephew has all of my old action figures, most of them, and there ain't no accoutrement. There are no choking hazards because that crap gets lost. Look at Keith just... It is a perfect demonstration of what many children will be doing on Christmas Day. Already lost to this stuff.
Oh, this is going to be so sad. All right, you're just going to have to take my word for it. Well, darn. Okay, well, look, I'll find it later. Maybe we'll do a things we screwed up and odds and ends episode someday. Because what shoots out of that weird grenades on a stick that we saw in the Riker figure, there's a similar one, but slightly smaller, that shoots out of this figure by hitting this button here, which releases it. And interestingly, it's that ammunition that goes into Worf's figure. So Worf's thing does shoot. It's just this smaller, thinner version, which used to be in here before I accidentally shot it, and God knows where it is because my carpet is almost the identical color to the ammunition. So my cat will find it. Yeah, my cat will find it later when he's knocking down my lights again. But we have a good opportunity here because we can look at this Pew Pew Borg versus the First Contact Borg. And guess what? It's barely even a repaint. Swapping out the arms. Now, to be fair, Playmates has done this before with the Borg figures. The Borg Series 1 and the Borg Series 2 figure and the blue one that also shoots something are all the same mold painted differently. So the Borg, they do a lot of work swapping out the arms and the hands, which we see in the smaller figures, but also here. These ones you can't swap out. They don't give you options like they did with the 4.5-inch scales. but they are different. So they're like, he's got different arms, so it's a different figure. And they did some very small variations in the paint. You can see there's sort of a brownish gold there, and that's back to its sort of original greeny gray. But that's basically the figure. I do like the fact that his lobster claw here can open and close with this switch. That's a nice little detail.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, out of all of these so far, I'm definitely liking this Borg best, even though if I'd already bought this Borg, I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I did exactly that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like the weird human hand, but you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's they're both pretty creepy. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just think about what the Borg on the left, if it just like tries to eat a plate of pasta, how's that going to go, you think?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't want to make an assumption. My guess is he's not eating a plate of pasta. So I guess we can put that to rest.
Oh, well done. Yeah. It's going to go into the regeneration cove. So I guess they don't need it. But like, what if he drops his pen?
Well, then we have a problem.
He's got problems. Well, when you have problems, you want to know what doesn't make it better. Our next, unless you have story writing problems and need to just add a little spice to your episode, and we're going to do that, and we're going to finish off with one of the more exciting, spicier characters, and that is figure 16255. It's Q. But it's not just your normal Q. It is Q as a 15th century ship captain, wearing this ridiculous outfit, which he wears in the pilot of Next Generation for maybe 4 seconds.
Because they were like, we've perfected the wiggle wiggle technology on Picard. We've now got to carry it forward.
That's right. The wiggle wiggle technology is too important. We can't let it fall into the hands of the Russians. So we're going to hide it in 1,000 different figures. And
Holy
so
crap,
here
everything
we are.
about that screenshot is working for me.
Oh, it's magnificent. And kudos to the team sculpting it, because there's a great deal of detail, and they got it really close to what shows up on screen, including his ridiculous little page boy haircut and his chest plate of armor. So, you know, kudos to getting that right. Mike,
I bet he played it straight as an arrow.
Well, you know, Q from Encounter at Farpoint is only a little bit of the scamp that he becomes later, but it's pretty silly then still too. So any other thought? Because you have not seen Encounter at Farpoint, yeah?
No. I'm loving everything. He's got an assortment of pointies.
He sure does. Now, let's see how many of them my cat haven't lost. When we go to Toy Cam, and we can see that, yes, he has another sword. He has a musket and whatever these things are called. Some sort of a spear, like a dragoon or something would have it. I actually don't know. But yeah, so he comes with an awful lot to match.
That might be the best figure of the lot there, I think.
Well, it's certainly very interesting, except for, are you ready for some... No, you know
Engage the wiggle wiggle technology.
I will, but I want to point out that, especially for a one-off figure, that they're not going to use this mold for anything else, they actually did build in most of the articulation. And so kudos to them for getting that right. Again, this sort of shiny, cheap plastic of it all, I'm not a fan of. And it's obviously hollow and light, which feels weird. But, Mike, we do get this fine moment. Let me clear away the other weaponry, because I don't want you to miss any of the action. Are you ready, Mike?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Whoa! Keith, you know what I have to see.
I know. Hold on. Let me just line it up, because I don't know what happened to the other epi. So you know what? It's not going to be a sword battle. It's going to be a handshake battle. And of course, they do line up so they can fight each other. Very important. So, deal well done, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want a thumb war? That could actually be used for some pretty scandalous fanfic. So whatever
I'm
you might see on
it's out there.
remixed from this video is not sanctioned by us.
And we're not sanctioned by Star Trek or Playmates.
So there you go. Enjoy. Fair use, baby.
All right. Well, those are the figures, and I promised you a thought about these figures in the context of Star Trek. And I think it's sort of obvious where I'm going with this. I don't like these figures because I don't like the emphasis on the guns and the sort of fightiness of it. And let me be clear, I love action figures with guns. I was a big G.I. Joe collector. I'm a huge Snake Eyes fan, and my favorite figure was I think the 84 figure or 87 figure where he had the line of grenades. Like, more grenades the better. Love those figures. So it's not about that. It's just about, in Star Trek, especially in Next Generation, once we get into Deep Space Nine and Voyager, it gets a little bit murkier. But Picard is not a shoot 'em up guy, and it's not really what that's about. And so to sell these figures, to sell the Riker with the ridiculous giant gun, that's not. I don't need to show it. It's right in front of him. I just think it says the wrong thing about what to expect from Star Trek, and I don't know if I would have liked. I don't think I would have approved this line had I been in that decision-making room.
There's a couple of questions, right? And we've asked many of these questions before. I'll reiterate them. I enjoy sometimes some of our viewers who are custom makers write in with probably more context than we have or knowledge that we have. But my guess is that it's a direct response to what popular lines were selling at the time. Maybe there was a particularly just sheer market research. And they're like, right now guns are real popular on the figures. Let's throw some on ours. The question for me then becomes, because that makes sense, right? That's just
sure.
No, I mean, for me, and we've asked before though, is what is the licensee, well, not the licensee, the licensor, what kind of approval process do they have from creative, right? So obviously the toy line is like, oh yeah, let's make a gun line. Where does the creative pass back come? Like, is there final approval on the Trek side, or do they have sort of carte blanche? It'd be interesting to know the specifics.
I'd love to know that answer. And someday we're going to reach out to our friends at Playmates and hopefully our friends at Varner Studios who did the molds. I'd love to know, love to get some answers.
If you'd like to come on the show,
yeah, by all means, we'll reach out. Because I feel like you deserve the plaudits that we are giving here on the show. All right. Well, if you would like to tell us what you think of the shoot 'em up figures, Mike, how would they do that?
Very, very, very easy. First things first, just comment down below on the YouTube. We don't censor those comments, so those Japanese porn bots, they get in. But more interestingly, you get in. So comment down below. Keith or I get back to you. In fact, someone just recently, this morning, I think, was asking if we wanted to pop on one of their podcasts. So we'd love to chat Trek or chat toys anytime. Just give us the specifics. Or you could write us at lookatmystartrektoys@gmail.com. Keith will get back to you. He checks that email address every 10 minutes. He loves it when you offer to send him stuff. Send Keith stuff. He loves it. Holiday
That's true.
Season.
That's awesome. And I actually just cataloged my extra figures. Finally got them sorted, got them cataloged, got them bagged up, and I had like 280 of them.
And lastly, take your twiggly, what was I calling it? Wiggle waggle articulation of your finger and click that subscribe button down below and then waggle it to the, see, I was going for something. It just didn't work out. Hit the notification bell, like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. It helps us out. Oh, all right. Instagram.
Yes.
At Star Trek Toys. Wow, I really crapped the bed here.
There it is. Going for something and it doesn't work out. I think that's we're gonna leave it there Folks, thank you for watching.
Look at my Star Trek toys!
Thank you for watching KME Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe.